They will not, majority of them, inshallah, will not win these elections because they haven't done enough in the community, and people are not stupid. Muslim people are very, very clever people, and they will see those people that are trying to play on their emotions on this one issue. That's all they're trying to do. They're playing on one emotion. And by the way, who is Galloway to tell people who will go to heaven and who will not go to heaven? That is just absolute absurdity. What's the jurisprudence that he has on
But do you think George Galloway is hurting your Labour enough? I mean, do you
No,
think,
he's not hurting Labour Party. I mean,
He's
he might win his seat. I don't think we have a very good candidate.
which seat do you think he will win?
Rochdale. I don't think he'll win any seats. I frankly don't think.
You think he can hold on to Rochdale? I mean,
We've got a good candidate there, and we'll see what goes on, and hopefully we might win that.
as we speak, the British government under Sunak has already challenged the ICC's jurisdiction on Palestine, even though ICC had settled the matter in 2021.
Yes,
And the fear is that British government is doing it to delay the whole
certainly
process.
the Conservatives have been doing this.
Yeah.
And a lot of us
Would that change under Labour?
That will change, and that should.
You have
change.
comfortable majority of over 15,000.
Yeah.
How confident or worried you are right now?
I am not worried at all. I believe in the Muslim community. The Muslim community who have seen me for a long time know the way I behave, know what I've done to support them, and what I've also done to look at the issue in Palestine and all those sort of issues. And what Jeremy had to do was to say, he recognizes what the issues are and apologize for it.
He never. I don't think he ever promoted anti-Semitism.
No, that's not the issue. There are instances.
I mean, that's a campaign that was launched against him. Come on.
No, but they can't just launch a campaign without issues. There were issues with.
Oh, they
Labour
can.
Party.
The media, the way the media is controlled, they can.
But there were issues. There were issues there that needed to be addressed, which were addressed.
That's all fine.
Yeah.
But your leader has a track record of performing U-turn. Promising something and then saying I can't do that. So I mean, what you're saying, I mean, if that comes out true, I think nobody is going to complain. But the question is, will he actually do that?
Let me tell you this. One thing that we couldn't do was in terms of the environment budget we'd set.
Tuition fees.
Right.
So Khalid, you've been an MP from Barr since 2001. You've had quite sizable majority. I mean, in 2019, you had about more than 15,000 majority.
Yes.
Are you worried, given the fact that Labour is facing anger up and down the country over Gaza?
Well, I'm very grateful to the people of Barr who have consistently, since 2001, voted for me. It's been a long time, but during that time, a lot of issues have arisen. And every time you come into government or you have an election, depending on who's in government and who's doing what you have to understand is that there will be changes. And so you rise to those challenges and meet those challenges. In terms of what you've said, the challenge currently, of course, the Muslim community at large have a significant concern about what's gone on. And therefore, I totally express my views in Parliament as well. Whereas I voted for the ceasefire, for the SNP amendment. It wasn't the Labour amendment that I voted for. 59 of Labour colleagues have joined to do that. So I think, and also the work that we've done since then has been tremendous in moving the whole of the Labour Party from inside. The first thing was having meeting with the leadership of the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, and other key people within the Labour Party. And so we started to express our views and we moved forward in relation to that. And I think to the extent where we are now, where there's full recognition of the ICJ, the ICC, the humanitarian disaster that's taking place, the loss of aid that's getting through, and that's a crucial issue in order to try and deal with that. But above all, the Labour Party is now in a position where it actually wants to see a two-state solution, which means that Palestine must be a recognized state in order to deliver that.
So that's quite an important point you're making. Under Jeremy Corbyn, we knew that Labour was prepared to recognize Palestine unilaterally. Now we are hearing that Sir Keir Starmer, as it looks like if he becomes the Prime Minister, he's saying, and that's how he's being reported, that Britain will not recognize Palestine until America does it. What is Labour's stand on that?
Well, America's already indicated also the same thing. Yeah. But the Labour stance, as far as I'm concerned, is clear that we will recognize Palestine as a state.
So it should not be linked to the peace process or anything.
What it's linked to is we've already made a commitment in 2004 under Ed Miliband, when there was a motion, an opposition day motion at the time. Ed Miliband, as the leader, committed us to supporting independent Palestine states, working with the Israeli state. So I think when you have a two-state solution, you need two states, and that's common sense. And that is what we'll work towards, ensuring that there is two-state solution.
So you've rightly said that Labour's stand has changed significantly. Now you are, of course, asking for ceasefire. But that's not how Labour's stand was in the immediate aftermath of 7th of October attacks, when the famous Keir Starmer's interview on LBC, when he supported the siege and cutting off of water, gas, electricity.
I'm very clear. Israel does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principles that Israel has a right to defend herself.
How do you view that? I mean, why did you have a conversation with Keir Starmer?
We've had a number of conversations.
What did he say?
That was said in the rush of the moment, and without taking the whole balance. And also seeing how extreme the IDF has put itself into. So since then, literally the week after that, Sir Keir Starmer clarified that situation. That is not what he meant. And sometimes doing a live interview, as you know, we all say things which perhaps we wouldn't do in a more prepared environment.
So you have spoken to him, and he is.
We have all. I mean, not just me.
And he is sorry for what he said, I suppose, because we haven't had a chance to speak to him.
He's actually a week after he said that that's not what he meant to say, and he's moved forward on that. And therefore, what we then did was enter into a dialogue and see the not just the Muslim community. Of course, Muslim community is very important, but a lot of people, a lot of members of parliament who have Muslim constituents. A lot of people who have no Muslim constituents, because they believe in the issue of human rights and civil liberties, have pushed this issue. That's what the Labour Party is about.
So that was surprising. What was surprising is that here was a person who himself has been a known human rights lawyer, right? He's fought cases in ICJ and all. And yet he was making that comments, and that's exactly why people found it quite shocking.
Well, look, we've said that. He clarified that situation afterwards. I clarified it in a number of channels as well once that was done. But we moved away from that. And the idea of working within a large party, which will hopefully take government after the next election, is that have that position within that party. Because if you weren't there, if you weren't doing those things, then perhaps the stance might have remained the same. We're inside, we've spoken, we consulted with the party, to the extent now where we're at a two-state solution, recognition of Palestine as a state. So these things are very important that we get to that stage.
So let me ask you, so you have been a shadow defense minister under Keir Starmer. You resigned in 2021. And that portfolio is going to be very, very important, I mean, in the new government, because there are already demands that should UK not reconsider its, weapons sale to Israel, what would the Labour government do?
Well, first of all, the government is not making available the advice it's getting from its lawyers, and that's crucial. And including David Lammy, who says that they should make that available. John Healy has said that they should make that advice available.
Publicly.
No,
so the advice that you've already received.
It's not necessarily always public, but at least to the other party. Now we'll be in charge of that. And the party will certainly demand that we look at that advice before we go forward. But in terms of that, I've signed a letter, as over 100 members of parliament from the Labour Party have signed a letter calling for at least a stopping of the arms supplies to Israel, to ensure that none of our weapons are used on sort of attacking the innocent people of Gaza.
So are you saying that you are in favor, you're supporting the idea of stopping arms supply to Israel for as long as this conflict
Definitely,
is going
I think
on?
Until the ICJ and the ICC resolve that issue, I think those supplies should be stopped, yes.
What is your stand on the prosecutor Karim Khan submitting that application for arrest warrant against Netanyahu and his defense minister, as well as 3 Hamas leaders?
That's right. Well, it's the right thing to do. I think he's looked at this. He's not somebody who just starts off and decides what to do. They've had to go through a process where they've had to gain the evidence. He's gained the evidence, but also you must remember the ICJ, the courts itself, is recognizing on a wider basis in terms of an issue of Israel as a whole and the IDF's behavior as a whole. But the ICC looks at individuals who can empower those decisions. And as you quite rightly said, they are looking at both sides where these offences have taken place. They've got the evidence together. That evidence needs to be produced to a court to start the first part of the process, and we support that.
You know, the reason why I'm asking you, because this is going to be very, very important, as it appears that your Labour is going to form a government. But as we speak, the British government under Sunak has already challenged the ICC's jurisdiction on Palestine, even though ICC had settled the matter in 2021.
Yes.
And the fear is that British government is doing it to delay the whole process.
Certainly the Conservatives have been doing this.
Yeah.
And a lot of us...
Would that change under Labour?
That will change, and that should change, because that is exactly the situation we're in. It's recognised by the United Nations in terms of this. It's recognised by the ICC.
Absolutely.
All those recognitions are there. And what Tories were doing is playing with time. We've said majority of our front bench has made statements in the Commons in relation to this, that should be applicable. And also the fact that we're now pushing for Palestine to be a recognised state. So that will confirm all those issues. But as far as I'm concerned, there is no hindrance to the ICJ continuing.
You know, I will hold you on this. If it doesn't happen, I will hold you.
Well, I'll be at the first campaigning if it doesn't happen.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure the party understands this. The party understands the issue of human rights and civil liberties. The party understands the issue of abuse of people, whether they've been bombed or whether they've been in different types of war. The war has rules. The Geneva Convention, as you know, applies. And that's something else the ICC is aware of that. And so whether you're a signatory or not, it doesn't matter. And this is what the issue has been. The ICC doesn't need signatures. Israel's not a signature to it, or the ICJ. But they can act, and they can act to use this in terms of the wider issue situation, whether then those people come to the UK, whether they come to Europe, whether they come to Australia, whether they come to the UK, as US, or whether they go to anywhere else in the Gulf or any other countries.
And as we speak, Spain has joined. Spain has given its support to the South African case for genocide.
So it has to look in terms of what it is out there. No rightful thinking person can ignore that. It's been an absolute travesty when you've got over 2 million people hemmed into a very small area, and you see the devastation of buildings that has taken place, the way all this is done. That has to be investigated. That does not apply. People quote the Second World War. The Geneva Convention came straight after the Second War to stop that. So anything that happened in the Second War wasn't right. And to say it was right is not true.
I mean, you can't justify what is happening in Gaza.
So therefore, that's why the Geneva Convention is in place. So there may be people who want to justify these things, but the issue is we have to, and the UK particularly, has to apply the law. We are the people that are known for applying the law and what we're at, and we must do that.
Yeah, I hope that what you're saying will come true when the Labour government is formed. And yet, your opponent in this constituency, Ayub Khan in particular, independent candidate, he's been accusing you of not raising your voice enough on Gaza. How do you respond to that? I mean, I showed you the video. I was doing the school run, and then his men in the car were, blaring through the mic, saying, all the things about you, that you haven't raised your voice enough on Gaza.
Vote for Labour is a vote for a total genocide. Don't forget the thousands of innocent men, women and children that have been killed. Support Barrister Ayub Khan this Thursday on the 4th of July.
Well, there must be the blind and deaf not to see that. I can show you certainly over 20 occasions in the last the parliament we just finished, where I raised my voice, where I voted clearly, even on the vote for the ceasefire, where I wasn't well enough. My friend and colleague, Mohammed Yassin, the MP for Bedfordshire, actually had to push me in a wheelchair to go through and vote. I don't see Ayub Khan doing any of this. He proposed a resolution to the council, which did not include the word ceasefire. He didn't do that.
Just for my audience, Ayub Khan is a sitting councillor right now in Birmingham.
And he's proclaiming all these things. What has he done? What has he done in the council? He did not call for a ceasefire in the council resolution that he had. Now he's trying to blame the Liberal Democrat leadership in doing that. I've called him out on that, and he can't escape that. The fact is, I have voted for the ceasefire. I have spoken on all those issues that I've mentioned to you in Parliament. There's proof available. There are links on my Facebook and Twitter that will, they're on an X, that will show you those things. So people who want to say these things can say, they can be deaf and blind if they want to be, but the truth is out there.
So, coming back to your constituency, there are close to 80,000, per population out here. Like in 2019, if I remember correctly, about the 58% polling polling was there. There are about 15 to 16% Muslims.
Yeah.
You have comfortable majority of over 15,000.
Yeah.
How confident or worried you are right now?
I am not worried at all. I believe in the Muslim community. The Muslim community who've seen me for a long time know the way I behave, know what I've done to support them, and what I've also done to look at the issue in Palestine and all those sort of other issues, whether it's the Rohingyas, whether it's the Uyghurs, whether it's the issue in Kashmir, whether now it's the issue of Palestine. So I have a huge track record in looking at these issues. My opposition candidate Ayub Khan does not have a track record. Where was he when all these things happened? I haven't seen a significant meeting with Kashmiris. They might have done recently, since the 7th of October, but they do not have a track record of delivering this. I have. I've also got a very big majority of Sikh constituents who I worked with and supported, particularly in terms of Khalistan. There's been issues that I've supported and continue to do that. I have a large African community as well. I have the Caribbean community that I support and I've worked with for a long time. I work very closely with the black churches in relation to that. I have a white indigenous community, which I totally work with. So there are significant issues. The cost of living is a big issue that I work with all of them, and I have done under this government. The cost of energy has been a huge issue. So there are lots of issues that I work with. But certainly I do not negate the issues for the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Christians, or anybody else in terms of religion. Where there are things that are not just, I will rise up and speak against them.
So talking about the anger amongst people, there was a video that was widely shared recently. Your encounter with some angry people in a mosque. What had happened? Which mosque was
basically,
it?
this was in Park Hill.
Yeah.
And basically, before my colleague Tahir Ali was speaking, and this chap didn't allow him to speak, and I told him to shut up because he needs to be quiet and listen to people. There were lots of people there who wanted to listen to what was going on. And then he carried on saying that, did you vote for the ceasefire? And I said to him, he's illiterate and he can't read and he can't see, because I know I voted for the ceasefire. If he just took a glance at my social media, it would have shown him that. But if you can go anything on the net these days, internet is very easy to get hold of. It would have shown him that. The problem was he was just being ignorant. And those people, I will not tolerate people who are just being genuinely ignorant and haven't bothered to look at anything and then criticize everybody. That is not fair. Same as what people are doing now is calling out Labour Party. The Labour Party has moved a huge way. There were issues at the start, as I've said to you, but we've moved, all of us have moved forward. And you can't hold that. And what they need to hold is the Conservative government who've been there. We have not been in government. We will now be, inshallah, in government, and we'll deal with those issues, and then you can have a word with us. But you've had a Conservative government, and all they're trying to do is get themselves known. They will not, majority of them, inshallah, will not win these elections because they haven't done enough in the community, and people are not stupid. Muslim people are very, very clever people, and they will see those people that are trying to play on their emotions on this one issue. That's all they're trying to do. They're playing on one emotion. And by the way, who is Galloway to tell people who will go to heaven and who will not go to heaven? That is just absolute absurdity. What's the jurisprudence that he has on this?
But do you think George Galloway is hurting your Labour enough? I mean,
no, he's not hurting Labour Party. I mean, he might win his seat. I don't think we have a very good candidate.
Which seat do you think he will
Rochdale. I don't think he'll win any seats. I frankly don't think.
You think he can hold on to Rochdale? I mean,
we've got a good candidate there, and we'll see what goes on, and hopefully we might win that as well. But, this is, Galloway's always been like this. Galloway jumps on these issues, pulls at the heartstrings of the Muslim communities, and that's what his bread and butter is. That's what he survives on.
What's your take on Ahmed Yaqub? You're from Birmingham. Shabana Mahmood is there.
Ahmed Yaqub again is a local person, lawyer. I know the family well. I've known the family for a long time.
Do you think he can hurt Shabana Mahmood?
Look, I think there will be some hurt. Of course,
because he got 69,000 votes in the mayoral
he got 42,000 in Birmingham.
Yeah,
and the rest of the region.
Yeah, correct.
So there'll be. I mean, Shabana has a 30,000 majority.
28,000. Yeah.
Sorry, almost
28,000. Yeah.
And what she will do, and what people will do, look at that. Look at her track record. Look at what she delivered for them. But also what they'll look at. Of course, they have issues in terms of Gaza, and we all of us have an issue and understanding on that. But she has worked hard in that constituency. People will look at her track record, what she's delivered for them as a constituency MP, but also what they'll look at is what's in the benefit of those people in terms of a Labour government coming in and supporting them in terms of the National Health Service, supporting them in terms of the cost of living, supporting them in terms of the children's education, 6,500 more teachers, 40,000 more appointments every week, working in the evenings, working at weekends for the consultants to make sure they deliver that. So the Labour Party will deliver that.
That's all fine, but your leader has a track record of performing U-turn. Promising something and then saying, I can't do that. So, I mean, what you're saying, I mean, if that comes out true, I think nobody's going to complain. But the question is, will he actually do that?
Let me tell you this. One thing that we couldn't do was in terms of the environment budget we'd set.
Tuition fees?
Right? No, what we said in terms of the environment budget, he said beforehand, we can't deliver this. Right? And he made it clear before the election that he's not going to be able to deliver this at the moment, but he'll work towards it. And we'll work towards that. Same as in terms of what we've got to be able to see. Let me explain that. What we've got to be able to see is what the Tories left us. What are the books like when we get in there? The Labour Party wants to do its best for students, for universities, for education, for tertiary education and vocational education. That is our agenda. We want more people to be trained locally, and I've been working on that project. What I want to do is the GWP, along with Job Centre Plus the combined authority, to put money into educate people, to get them to level 3 training so they can get jobs. I'm trying to do that in my area already. I've tried to work that in Perry Barr, and we'll, after the election, hopefully inshallah, I'll win, and we'll do that.
What do you have to say about the treatment meted out to your former leader, Jeremy Corbyn?
Look, there's a simple issue as far as Jeremy's concerned. Just with somebody that
you were part of his shadow cabinet.
I was part of the shadow cabinet, but we've always had a difference in terms of our policies.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes, I've been to the other side, and he's been totally to the other side. But I accepted his leadership. But you have to understand at the end of the day, when there are certain issues, you have to abide by those. Those are legal matters. We had the Human Rights Commission looking at this, and he told us this is what you've got to do. So when these legal issues arise, these issues are very, very important. And what Jeremy had to do was to say, he recognizes what the issues are and apologize for it.
He never. I don't think he ever promoted anti-Semitism.
No, that's not the issue. There are instances.
I mean, that's a campaign that was launched against him. Come on.
No, but they can't just launch a campaign without issues. There were issues with.
Oh, they can. The media, the way the media is controlled, they can.
But there were issues. There were issues there that needed to be addressed, which were addressed. There were a number of people which were dealt with in terms of the procedures of the Labour Party. Had to deal with that, and of course he also was a part of that. And at the end of the day, Labour Party isn't a draconian party which cuts you off. As long as you turn around and say, look, I'm sorry, this is not what I should have said, or maybe this is not what I meant, I will move forward. And if somebody can't do that, nobody's bigger than the institution. So I know Jeremy has a huge name across the party and some of those, but nobody's bigger than the party or the rules that we work under. And he had to come to those rules, and that's what the problem is.
Would you, last question, if the Labour forms a government after 4th of July, would you consider coming back and joining the government?
Well, I've got a lot of issues that I want to do in the constituency. A number of people have asked me this. I think I'd like to concentrate on a lot of the issues, particularly in terms of employment for young people that I've set up. There's a huge issue in relation to crime, which I've already set up a panel to do that, and also health issues. Particularly preventative health issues, which I'm trying to work on, those sort of things. I will try to do my best to serve my constituents. That is what I want to do. That's what I've always done. We'll look at what's available. And I think what we'll have to do is deal with that. But my issue here is to be honest and open to my people, to deliver what I want for them. That's why I became an MP. I've given up my position twice before. Okay, so I'm not somebody who chases after positions. So I'm not really bothered about that. My issue is, if I get back in, how and what I can deliver for my people in Perry Barr.
Thank you very much for talking to Janta Ka Reporter.